So I'm very happy to introduce Sarah Masood. So Sarah was very kind to share with us her experiences, what they're doing in their workplace, Telenor, and in our last call. And I just thought it'd be very wonderful if she would join this call and share with us what they're doing. So Sarah, over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. This is Sarah Masood, and I am currently working for Telenor Pakistan as a talent and culture specialist. Previously, I've done my master's from King's College London, and I will at this forum be discussing techniques or tricks that I've picked up from my academic background and what we're doing in the workplace today and have been doing since the past 1 year, given the COVID scenario. So this will be a case in point of how to turn unfavorable market conditions to your advantage. And I'll start with the background. Where in Pakistan, the traditional work model is basically going to work 9 to 5, and that's where your work starts. And it's not embedded in Telenor culture, but it is a part of Pakistani culture. That's how you see work. And this pandemic brought about the opportunity to test out different working models, which was great because it's a drastic change. And then secondly, we've experienced modernization, and we're going through it in different business units all over the world. And where, for instance, we were changing or shifting to artificial intelligence, we now have the ability to reset the clock on support functions like human resources or organizational psychologists and their need. And thirdly, I think this pandemic comes as an opportunity to humanize the workforce, to observe the repercussions of spillages of work life into personal and vice versa. And companies have now gotten the grips of what work-life integration is, whereas previously we thought that, we're working on work-life balance, whereas work is separate from personal life. I think it was far from the truth. We're constantly juggling, and even when the pandemic did not hit us, if you'd see a work message in the evening, you would respond. So there were spillages happening, and now we're working from work-life balance to work-life integration, and that's great. But without further ado, let's talk about what Telenor Pakistan did when the pandemic hit us and how we optimized the working conditions, which in turn helped improve the employee well-being. So first things first, we had to equip our employees and discuss what COVID-19 is, the impact not only on our society or our community, but on business operations for Telenor Pakistan, and specifically for the way of work for the employee. This meant offering them different working models, like flexible way of work, and asking them to be safe, that they will have to be able to work from home. And for some people, like I said, traditionally in Pakistan, 9 to 5 jobs start from the office and there. So we gave our people, we trusted them. We gave our people the option to work from home, which was unheard of, 5 days a week or more even. And then we knew that, okay, so we've changed the working style. Now we need to help leadership, because now they will have to sort of supervise work in a different way without having to micromanage people, and then also to ensure that people are meeting their targets. So we offered a different leadership style, which is TLT. And if you would like, I can go into detail, but very briefly, it's tight, loose, tight model, where you communicate the goals. Then there's loose, where you let people process things in a different way and work in their own creative ways. And then tight again, where you discuss the deliverable on the given timeline. And that's how you manage work from flexible environments or styles. And then we wanted not only to provide our leadership with adequate support and resources on how to manage these people, but we wanted to help our people understand that COVID has its impact, in the sense now they have to work from home, they're confined in an environment, they have to the onus is on them on how to motivate themselves to be creative, to be productive, to engage teams, etc. So we needed to see whether we were helping them have the resources to, for instance, connect. Because Telenor is a telecom. So basically, we wanted to know whether people were paying out of their pockets for company operations to run their activities or do their tasks. So if they were, then we want to reimburse them or provide them with support. And then similarly, test new models. How do we do that? So do we need to look at their bills from before COVID, or then after, because those may be personal devices that they're using. So how would we go about it? So we sort of developed a CFT, which is a cross-functional team, to tackle different issues like engagement, wellness, leadership, leading for the front for the leaders. And so and there were people from different teams, from communications, from commercial, from human resources, from facilities, health and safety, to basically understand whether we're doing enough. So for instance, whether we're sending out enough health advisories. And by health advisories, I don't only mean that during COVID, are you social distancing or are you meeting people or not, but how, like, advisories such as, are you taking care of your mental health? What are the ways you can look at your food, what you're consuming, if your energy levels are down, what foods can you take to enhance it? What are the activities you can invest your time in to uplift your mood? So meditation, doing a manicure, things like that, a staycation. So bringing to light like these different options, because we realized that when we looked at, for instance, the annual leave utilization, people were not taking their leaves and ultimately burning out. And well, for most people, you take a leave to maybe travel, and that's where you relax and unwind. And so we had to familiarize them with different different ways they could unwind without having to put themselves at risk. So, a staycation, what does a staycation mean? What can you do? What are safe activities to pursue during this time? So health advisories really help people understand if they were, for instance, in a fatalistic mindset where they thought that, they feel confined, there's nothing to do. We're showing them avenues where they can invest their energy. So I think when we started making these efforts, it helped maintain the psychological contract. It meant that we were giving them flexible working. So people who were more anxious or more conscientious of whether they were going to spread it or get it, COVID, they had the option to work from home. People who felt bound by these restrictions, we did allow 30% of staff who could not do their operations from home to come to work. And obviously, we made sure that people were following SOPs and social distancing, and we would keep tabs on the number of people who were wanting to come to the workplace. So we would give them the option from time to time, and we would try to ensure that one day of the week, one person from one team can actually go visit the office, and we take care of whether these people are following SOPs and keeping the community at work safe. So that was great, and the feedback was also very positive, because then people didn't feel like they were jailed inside their homes, right? And then what we did was we really increased communications. We held town calls, which was basically we asked our senior leadership to have open dialogue, to ask employees about the challenges they were facing and what could be done to alleviate them. So that those were great, but these were the basics that we covered. When it meant to equipping these people, we enhanced their credit limits. We gave them internet data bundles to ensure that they didn't have the anxiety that now, okay, so work and home life has been meshed. So are we paying out of our pockets for, to carry out company tasks? No, we gave them the option that you can claim them. Uh, for most things, we would just say add a receipt or let your manager know, and it wasn't a very tedious process. You just had to claim it. You just needed to show the bill. We also collaborated with furniture companies to offer employees discounts to help them step up and make their home offices to emulate office environments where they could feel they could be creative or be productive, and where people could not afford to buy furniture of those discounts, we allowed employees to take the chairs so that they would not develop musculoskeletal problems. And so I know most of you would think that that's just the physicality of it, but we were trying to be very holistic in our approach. We knew that bills cause anxiety, so we're going to take that off their plate. Bad posture, medical problems, how comfortable are people visiting hospitals at this time? So let's sort that out. Ergonomics, get it out of the way. In terms of psychological relief, I think the TLT model was something people were still getting used to, but then leaders were also given a lot of trainings on resilience, grit, psychological safety. And I was also, hearing your conversation about, how to equip leaders or managers on how to diagnose people who we might be losing during the pandemic due to a deteriorating mental well-being. So what are the signs to pick up? Presenteeism, absenteeism, is it body language? Do we keep the cameras on? Do we make it mandatory? We emboldened our managers to take those steps to ensure that they were open in their communication, that they were approachable, and then they were also empathetic. And here in Pakistan, we have a very macho culture, and there are lesser females than the majority of workforce is males, basically. And you know how I mean, not more in the West, but in the East, you're supposed to be macho. You can't talk about emotions, you can't talk about how it's bringing you down. And then we also realized that while these men were working and that pent up emotion was there, we through research we realized domestic violence was going through the roof. The numbers, and well, we can see the numbers. We still haven't heard from a single employee whether they're facing this at home. So we would give advisories regarding, if you are a victim or if you feel that you need help, we had a hotline number where we could provide support. Similarly, for people who are not facing such grave issues, we onboarded an organizational psychologist, a counselor, and we held individual and group counseling sessions. And we asked the counselor, obviously the data had to be confidential, but we said, since you know the themes of generic themes people are coming up with, the problems they face at work, it may be a manager is not empathetic, or it may be a system that is very tedious to work with. You give us recommendations, and we're going to make sure that we make these changes within this year. We also ensured that our field staff was given a separate allowance. We ensured our supply chain employees were given free testing facilities so that if they, because of increased customer interaction, if they got it, they weren't going to pass it on, and they would feel comfortable claiming it and getting tested, because here there's also a huge challenge helping people understand that this is real. As funny or as weird or as, I don't know how to say it, but as unbelievable as it sounds, it's very hard to ensure that people follow SOPs and understand that COVID-19 is actually a disease. So we sent care packages to employees. We also ensured that our sales staff, which was basically earning their pay based on performance, their commission was fixed at 50% because we understood the challenges they would have faced in interacting with people while everyone was locked in lockdown. And then we also understood that because now we were only allowing 30% of our employees to enter the workforce, we knew that these parents, single parents or working parents who were already using the daycare facility, would not be able to. So we replaced that with nanny allowance. Also because we were not able to take the responsibility to ensure that people working for the daycare would be COVID negative, because you can check the temperature, but you may be a carrier, and sometimes people have different symptoms. So we didn't really want to take risk with children. So we had to terminate our contract and we moved to other systems. That meant that you alleviate the employee of stress of having to take care of their child while working from home, because that's overexposure. The child thinks you're home, so you're available. So that also gave us great feedback. We introduced a lot of interventions, which I'm happy to go in detail, but I'm just thinking that there's a lot to cover that I've just put down for you guys on, what you can do. But I think most importantly, I think it was we had a town call just recently where we recognized 50 employees and we had bonuses for them, and we rewarded them for persevering, for their resilience, their grit, because we knew it was not an easy year. And as soon as we started making these interventions, we saw our performance go up. Quarter 4 targets were met, and a company bonus has been announced. So that's great. And we do think that the CFT we made really helped, because we would discuss ideas and we would be the first ones to shoot them down if we thought they were hard to implement or they would not be as effective as we thought they were. At the same time, that's how I discovered this platform as well. I was running out of ideas and I was constantly looking for platforms where I could derive engaging new ideas, so as to help employees feel like they're taken care of, or whether or maybe even at work you're not supposed to be constantly working, because that's not how natural how we do in offices. Like, you socialize, you take your breaks, you go back to work. We're not just constantly working. So to even do that, we organized virtual concerts, gaming sessions online. So there's a very famous local game in Pakistan called Ludo, and we all have that on Facebook as well. I don't know if anyone is aware of it, but Ludo Star is basically it has 4 players, and people, they're very competitive. And it's very funny. It's very engaging. It helps take your mind off work at least. So that was great. And for those people who are resilient naturally, who were able to adapt very quickly to the changing way of work, we realized that there was a fair bit. Because of the macho culture, maybe they were projecting that, or otherwise they were naturally like that. So for them, we took the opportunity to focus on development. We had learning bingo boot camps. We had trainings that we offered. We offered them mentoring opportunities. So we went the extra mile by ensuring that we were covering everything. And I think when you look at your employees, you just have to, and I know this is impossible now, but virtual work shadowing is a great opportunity to sort of understand how employees are working and where you can facilitate them. Or maybe just look at your own workday and try to envision, what are the steps that I can take to improve my experience while working from home or working from anywhere for that matter. Is it my manager that needs to communicate things differently? Am I giving development opportunities? Do I have breakout rooms when I need to get my mind off things? is my leader inspirational? Do I trust communication that is coming from the top? Do I see my leaders doing the same? um, and so I think when you have a lot of people, and then obviously pulse surveys are great to check whether your interventions are effective or not. And for Telenor Pakistan, what we do is we run, like I said, a lot of interventions, and we go back to the ones we think generated a lot of response. For instance, we had a fitness challenge, and our CXOs, the C-suite employees, were seen, doing push-ups and working out while attending a meeting, and we recorded all of that. And so it had a huge traction. And now we're going to do a sequel where we're going to try to inculcate a step tracker in our toolkit apps, and then we're going to give them targets of how to complete your 5,000 steps, 10,000 steps, and then and focus on healthy activities, like were you able to quit smoking during the pandemic, for instance. So the when you think about holistic well-being, I think you need to take into account if you're giving everyone the information, is it driven from the top? Are you giving adequate support and resources to employees? Are you taking the pressure off? Are you humanizing the workforce? Are you making a safe space? Are people, not just managers, able to diagnose when their colleagues need support? Are they able to offer that support? Are we actively listening to each other? Are we contributing enough? And so I think the responsibility is two-way. As psychologists or HR leaders, thought leaders, you can drive initiatives, but it's also very important for you to give that responsibility to the individual as well. Are they taking up these opportunities? Are they aware of these opportunities? What have they done to grasp these opportunities? Or if they thought of ideas, were they able to reach out to you and communicate the same? Also, what's important is if you have asked people for ideas, active listening is very important, and you won't want to contaminate this mechanism, because then people will stop talking to you. If you have 1,300 employees, it might be hard to listen to everyone, but do it in a periodic manner, but then really go into the depth of it and try to address everything you can, because the next time you conduct a survey, you won't get a response, because people will be like, well, I said this, but then nobody listened. So why should I participate in the next survey? So instilling trust, doing things that have worked, knowing your people, knowing their difficulties, their challenges, and then rewarding them for coming through. So that's what's been happening in Telenor Pakistan.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. I absolutely love how systematic you were at Telenor in the ways Telenor, because you were asking people what they want, then delivering suggestions and finding out what you could offer to meet what people needed, and then checking with flash surveys, is it actually working? So it sounds like it's almost a more scientific approach of trial and error to see what works, what doesn't, and asking people what exactly do they need. So that was just wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody have any questions for Sarah? We'll have a couple of questions. I'll move on to Chris, and then we'll have half an hour of a discussion afterwards. So any burning questions?
Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like there was a wide range of different initiatives that you put in place. What stood out in terms of all the different things that you put in place? What was the thing that had the best response from the feedback surveys, or was the most requested?
I think the virtual concert was something that was unthought of, and so we had it on Workplace, and not just people from Pakistan, but from other business units. A lot of people joined, and when you're sharing cultures across borders, and whether it's through music or dialogue or language or art, it's very well appreciated. And I'm not saying everyone will appreciate it, but mostly people feel intrigued when they, across the border, they're hearing different musicians and different styles of singing and just different instruments. So the virtual concerts were a big hit. The fitness challenge was something that was great because it asked people to record themselves while exercising, and while it was funny at the same time, it also motivated others, because then part of that challenge was doing at least, like, I don't know, 10, 20, as many push-ups as you can, or burpees or squats, and then challenging another leader or a colleague to do the same. And so it was a domino effect. It just blew up workplace, because everyone was trying it and doing it and sharing it. Yeah, so I think I would say those were our best experiences so far. And care packages. I think anything for free that you receive from your company is very well appreciated. So whether that meant giving care packages to employees, or giving them food vouchers with day off without having to deduct it from their annuals, they were very well received.
Mhm. So little tokens of appreciation, and it's really interesting how sharing culture across borders has so much benefit, especially with global corporates. I didn't expect that a concert would have such a response. It's fascinating. Humans are brilliant. And thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing that with us.